Today we're reviewing the DATOUBOSS 5500W inverter. Now this is a 48 volt inverter. It is 120 volts AC output. Now before we get into this, do me a huge favor, click that subscribe button. Really important. It helps me to continue to do videos like this. So we're going to open this up, look at the features, tear it all down, and then we're going to test the output. I am going to use my HumSync wall mount battery to power it, and we'll see how well that this inverter works. Let's begin. Here's the owner's manual that comes with it. All right, so in the box, you do have the hybrid inverter. I don't see any additional connections on it. There's no clamps. So typically with some of the hybrid inverters, you'll be able to see how much energy is being sent back to the grid. This doesn't have that, so just came with the unit itself. Also came with 2 anchor bolts and then a small fuse. It says for 150 amps. There's no manufacturer that's listed, but is a 150 amp fuse. Looking at the side of the unit, the model number is DT4855U. The capacity of the inverter is 5500 watts. For solar, it has a 8500 watt input. Max charge current for the batteries is 100 amp. For the panels, it will take a array 60 to 500 volts DC. So it is nice and high for the input as far as the maximum voltage. So that is good. Once again, maximum solar voltage, 500 volts. Recommended range on the high side is 360 to 430. And that's everything that's listed on the decal. A couple things that I wanted to point out in the manual. It does state as far as wire size, either a single 2-gauge cable to power it or 2 6-gauge cables. And the battery capacity, it is stating 200 amp hour, and amperage is 127 amps for the rated capacity. Now we're going to test this up to about 4,000 watts today. And the reason being, I don't have a 60 amp panel that's set up for 120 volts AC. Everything else that I have in my shop is all split phase. So put this together, 2 separate 20 amp outlets. This will be able to pull approximately 4,800 watts. So not the maximum that this can provide, but it will get it fairly close. Okay, so with the unit open, let's take a look. So you can see all your different connections. It does have an internal breaker, which is for your 120 input. You have 2 brushless fans. It does have some plastic on the inside to direct the airflow. What I find interesting with it is the air is drawn in at the bottom and then goes out the side. It does cool these 3 heat sinks, but everything to the left of it, there are no fans. You do have a vent here on the side, but all the components on the left-hand side, there's no fan to cool it. As far as the top, there are no vents at all. The vents are only on the side. The only concern that I would have is over time, this side of the board would have limited airflow. And since the vents are on the side instead of on the top, the heat's going to remain trapped in here potentially. But we'll see when we fire it up. I can see all of the capacitors are glued to keep them from moving. And all of the connections on the bottom are all torqued down and marked, including some of these connectors here and there. But then for this breaker, they're not marked. The other thing that is a little bit interesting is with this airflow, the way that it's set up, this side of the heat sink gets plenty of airflow, whereas this side, it's a little bit restricted, and these are either MOSFETs or IGBTs right there. And then I can see some capacitors, looks like possibly Mylar at the bottom. So the airflow, trying to understand that a little bit. I do see that there's some cutouts here. So this may force some of the air off to the side, but you still have this whole center section where there may be minimal airflow. That spare fuse that I found, here's where it goes. Right there. So it looks like that the fuse is for the DC side. It's a 150 amp fuse. So you have your DC that's coming in, positive and negative, and then it goes across, hits this fuse, and then goes up. So it does have a fuse on the DC side. That I do like. All right, so have everything hooked up. So I've got two 1500 watt heaters. I've got my oscilloscope. I've got a Sawzall and then a third heater. That one is also 1500. I believe it's 900 on low. We'll probably use it on low, but let's see what happens. So have the oscilloscope here. Going to turn the first heater on high. So that is 1500. Looks nice and clean. Turn on the second one. Here's the second one. I can hear these fans start to kick on now. It is a lower pitch fan. It's not, high frequency, which is good. It's not terribly annoying like some others can be, especially like miners. I'm going to put the third one on low. You see it, the fans really kicked in now. Sine wave is still clean. So now we're going to do the Sawzall. Let's look at this oscilloscope. Zoom in. Quite clean. I'm just going to put this on high real quick. With the three heaters turned on, that was pulling 4,500 watts, plus the Sawzall was pulling at least another 1,000. That is 7.5 amp Sawzall. So the startup on it is going to pull even more. So this did put out 5,500, and the sine wave was still clean. So it did put out its rated capacity. I was a little bit worried because, I'm pushing the outlets that I had set up and the wire, but it did do it. So for a test, that was actually pretty successful. Now, while I have this open, a couple other things that I do want to show. First one is when it comes to these connections, if you're using thick wire like 8 gauge and you're trying to connect up, they want you to use this bottom port and then go up. And to be honest, it would be very difficult to make that bend. And the 8 gauge was quite tight trying to get that in. Now, it does have a second set of ports that you can use, but once again, you would have problems fitting it through that grommet. So it's a little bit tight here. Everything's a little bit close. I would provide some more space. That way you can access everything. It did not have a separate ground connection. The only thing that was there was just the screw. So I just connected it that way with my solid ground wire. So they should definitely open this up, give a little bit more room. I think that would be much better. I do like how that the battery cables, how that it's connected up and how that attaches to the main board in here. That is very nice, and it is a solid connection. Let me just show you real quick. You can see it right there where it's bolted on. So that is a nice solid connection. I do like that. One thing that I had mentioned before is that I was kind of curious about the airflow and if there would be any sort of issue. So we're going to check the temperature of some of these components and see how everything looks. So on the heat sinks on the right side, you're looking around 81 degrees, 81.5. On the left side, where it doesn't have the airflow, yeah, it's definitely a little bit warmer. So if you look here, you've got 146. There's 75. So on that coil, 75 degrees. On this coil, 150. Once again, I would redesign the airflow in this. And what you may want to do is open this up on this corner so some of the airflow can come out and then go up and out, because that's a lot warmer. Once again, 146, 47, still going up, 148, 149, 75, 92, 86. So hopefully you see what I mean. Redesign the airflow, because we only had this running for a little bit, and that's a lot of heat on that left-hand side. Final thoughts on the DATOUBOSS inverter. So it did put out the output that it was rated for. The sine wave was relatively clean. It had a little bit of switching distortion that you can see, but as far as the output itself, it was a pure sine wave. It was clean, especially under load. Was able to bring it up to approximately 5,000 to 5,500 watts. It did hold it. The sine wave was stable with that. The fans on it worked well. They did kick on. They're variable speed fans. They did get fairly loud, but not annoying by any means. The airflow was a bit of an issue. So on the right side, the fans cooled down the heat sinks and all the other components on that right-hand side perfectly fine. On the left-hand side, there were some hot spots because there was no airflow there. I would definitely redesign it a little bit so there is some airflow from the fans going this direction and then up, and that will make the unit much better. The other thing that I noticed is as far as the connections on the bottom, it's really tight and it's hard to get the AC output connected to it, and also the AC in, you would be in a similar boat. So I would maybe redesign that, extend this out a bit, so that way it would be much easier to connect cables to it. Now, 8 gauge is the maximum that you can connect to this with the terminals. I'd recommend increasing that so you could do 6 gauge, because this does put out the 5500. And with that being the case, you really don't want to use 8 gauge. It would be better to run 6 gauge. So make the terminals a little bit bigger, but overall, decent inverter. It did do its output. I wasn't able to test a lot of the features. So the AC input I couldn't test. The solar input I couldn't test. This was mainly just a bench test, testing the inverter itself, its output, the sine wave, to see how well that it works. So it did do a decent job with it. Few things, like I said, I'd recommend updating on the design, but overall, the unit did work as described. That's it. Thanks again for watching Mike's Solar Garage.